Hello, everybody, and welcome to a conversation with Melissa Raman Molitor. Hello, Melissa.
Hi, Lisa.
Thank you for joining me and for exhibiting in the 7th annual, oh my gosh, group show. This is the first time we've done it virtual, and what we're doing is sharing conversations with our artists so that people can meet them. So we appreciate you letting us into your studio and into your space. Tell us what it is you're exhibiting in the show.
The piece I have in the show is from a series I did called the Bloodline Series. And a lot of my own personal artwork is really about exploring my experiences as an Asian American girl and woman in America. And so the piece that is in the show is really explores this idea of blood and how blood is transferred from generation to generation, from parent to child. And it's sort of this unseen, invisible part, right, that we don't see. And I wanted to explore this idea of like the blood from my father and the blood from my mother and how they're from two different cultures and how that kind of comes together to create a different environment, which is, you know, sort of my mixed heritage. So that's what the piece is about.
And it looks as though there's a chemical reaction happening in the piece. Can you talk a little bit about how you made it?
It's digital photography. So I took pictures of jellyfish in sort of the water, swimming around in the water. That's really sort of representative for me of my mother. She's from the Philippines, so like the Philippine Islands and the motherland kind of thing. And then the blood is actually, the other piece is blood. It's like magnified blood cells, and it's actually blood from my father. So he's a retired hematologist. So I grew up with, you know, like looking at blood under microscopes and stuff. So I'm fascinated with blood, I guess. So I took that, like actual, you know, images of, you know, magnified images of my dad's blood and overlaid it. You know, I lost my mom when I was a teen, so I didn't have her actual blood to use. And so I had to use something to represent her. And that's kind of what I came up with.
Interesting. It's so fun to talk to people and unpack the art that you're looking at because, yeah, on the one hand, you're like, I think it's this, but it's just, I'm so grateful for these stories because it's so interesting. Tell us also, what is it that is happening in your studio right now? Are you making art during this shelter in World of Fire moment?
I'm not making art in a traditional sense. I can't. I can't right now with everything that's going on. It's too much. A lot of what art is for me is the way that I process and, you know, try to make sense of the world around me. And it's too much right now. So I am not making my own art. I am focusing on it in a different way through what I kind of see as a social art practice. So the work that I have been doing is really focusing on Kids Create Change, which is an organization that I started with Angela Lyons-Smith. And it's really focused on access and equity in the arts in our community. So right now we have, we're putting together like a whole resource online, which is free access to art projects and, you know, what you can make with household materials, you know, to be creative. And we're featuring, you know, artists of color, Black artists, so that kids and families are learning about artists of color, not just, well, in our community, but also beyond. So, and this idea of like activism art, you know, we're really focused on wanting to use art and engage young people specifically in sort of social justice work through art. So we also had this huge resource of like how to talk to kids about race and racism and the protests that are going on. So that's really like creating that resource and that website and sort of the campaigns around all of this is kind of the art that I've been taking on right now.
That's what's consumed you. Where do people go to see more info about Kids Create Change?
www.kidscreatechange.com.
Nice. Okay, good. So, and the website has all the resources and everything on it.
All the resources, yes.
Yeah, we're hearing two kind of interesting narratives right now from a lot of artists with this question. Some artists are like, I cannot make right now because it's so much that's happening in the world that I'm a little bit blocked. And then other artists who are like, I am blocking everything out and I'm hiding in my studio. It's been interesting to watch people react to that. Talk a little bit about your practice as an art therapist and how you made room in your life and your career for art and art making.
Well, I've sort of used art or was really interested in art since I was really young. And I think that when I was really young, because of my experiences as like one of the very few families of color in our community, a lot of sort of the discrimination and the bullying and the shaming, like art was sort of where I could hide, you know, like I could be myself when I was making art. I didn't know that at the time. I mean, I was young, but I think that when my mom passed away, when I was in college, I was initially majoring in graphic design and, but I really was hating it. Well, one, because it was like during the time of the introduction of CAD, and I was like, this is not what I signed for. But another piece of it is I was also taking like a ceramics class and a photography class, and I was realizing that they just felt more right. There was more room for self-expression. And at the time when I was dealing with sort of the grief and loss of my mom, I realized I really needed it. Like it was a form of survival for me. I needed a more expressive form. And it sort of started there. And then I was really interested in how art can be a mode of self-expression, of communication. It can bring people together. It can, help build community. It's a form of healing for people. And so I was really interested in exploring this idea of art therapy in the sense that, it's therapeutic. It's not traditional therapy, and at least the way that I practice it and apply it. It's really, when you think about, I think a lot of people, when they think about traditional therapy, they think like, okay, you're in a room with another person. They think of like the couch, psychoanalysis. It's behind closed doors and it's a shroud of confidentiality. And that's just not how I see it. I see healing and therapy as being communal. I think that there's a lot to be said for being able to be heard and be seen, and how that is therapeutic, and the response that you get from other people in your community can be really powerful. And so that is sort of how I apply that therapeutic lens.
Nice. And who is it? I mean, you have a lot of intersections of art therapy, community building, social activism. Who do you look to for inspiration when specifically you're making art, when you're in the studio and you're about to create? Who do you go to in those moments? Or do you go to, I mean, it doesn't have to be one entity, it can be multiple.
It isn't one, and it changes like week to week or day to day. It depends on where, what I read that day, or a conversation that I had with someone that day, or, there are artists and writers, filmmakers that are always an inspiration to me. And it's usually the ones who are doing some kind of work around social justice and really addressing a lot of the social issues that we are experiencing. So, and how they do that through art, how they do that through creative writing, how they do that through film. So I'm really inspired by artists, but also artists who would maybe consider themselves as activists.
Nice. And there's a lot of them out there right now who are just rocking. And I'm so grateful that we have access in our small community of Evanston of only 75,000 people, of people who are doing such great work right now, especially in the community building sector. I just think there's some awesome stuff happening. Yeah. And I attribute a lot of that stuff to you and Angela. And just for full disclosure, on top of everything else Melissa does, she's also a board member and an instrumental human in the actual building of the Evanston Made organization. So I have to give you a shout out for that too. Thank you very much.
It's been awesome. It's been awesome working with you and with the board that we've assembled now. And the Evanston Art Connects sort of initiative was really wonderful to see. Just what an impact artists, when they get together, can make on our community. And Evanston Made sort of leading the charge in that it was really an honor to be part of that. So yeah, I love what we've been doing with Evanston Made. So
awesome. Well, thank you for being in the show, and thank you for letting us into your world today.
Thank you.